Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Hey, I had to do just a short video with the president telling us about the war that we're in. And kind of thank God that he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize because we have enough cognitive dissonance going around anyway. But he's going to go through, that we're at war. And it's not a declared war, of course, not officially because Congress didn't do it. So we know we're going to hear a whole lot of bullshit from the liberal Democrat communists. But, if you've seen any of my lives before, I'm against this particular action that he just took, and for the reasons why he took it. And I don't think he's going to mention that in this particular speech. This was a good written speech, straight to the American people, and he tried to keep it that way. Like I said, but I have to admit to you, after being an engineer for the Department of the Army for so many years before I retired, it doesn't matter what I feel. Now that the bullets are flying, there's only one way and only one side to be on, right? Because we have to bring the soldiers home and we got to give them our best prayers and all of that kind of stuff. So even in opposition to this decision, we have to win. We have to win, and, we can't half-ass war, right? So once the decisions are made, then all the objections, I don't say they all have to stop, but for some people like me, I'm not going to be talking against our soldiers while they're doing the bidding of their superiors. You know what I'm saying? So we're at war, another regime change war. And if we got to put a lot of boots on the ground in Iran, it's going to be a disaster. Because, people just, even if they want their leaders gone, people just don't like to be occupied. You understand? And there's a component to this that they certainly don't want those people on their ground occupying their land. So this could be really, if it's not completely strategic from the air with bombs, and if we got to occupy anything, it's going to be a disaster. Right? Not that we wouldn't have the upper hand, but in order to occupy a country, you have to be a barbarian. You have to be willing to do barbaric things to occupy people. So if we can't win and the people on the ground, if we don't give them weapons, if we don't give them all the things they need for the regime change, whoever those new leaders that they're picking in Iran, they got to give them weapons. They're going to have to give them some strategy. They're going to have to do all those things to get those guys to be able to take over leadership, right? So hopefully that's part of the plan. Because again, he made no mistake in this video that they want to have he didn't say regime change, but let's read through the line. So let's go and see what the president has to say. And like I said, I did many reaction videos, and every time Iran came up, I was like, hey, man, we shouldn't do that. But hey, we're in the mix now. And once we get in the mix, it's got to be all American. It got to be all America or nothing. You know what I'm saying? That's just the way it is. So just got to suck it up. So let's hear what the president has to say, and then we'll go from there.
Time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing.
When he first started to go through the list, I said, we're going all the way back to ancient history to come up with this justification. And it took me a while because I was alive. I remember all of those news reports. I remember the botched helicopter operations and all of that kind of stuff, and the length of time our Americans were held over there. I remember the bombing in the barracks in Beirut, I believe. So he's going to go through that. And so, but as he keeps going, these guys have been pinpricking us for decades, just over the place. And we hadn't had a president with the resolve to put an end to it. I guess he's saying he's the one to do it. But now that the bombs are flying, we can't go half-assed. If you want regime change, you gotta make it happen. We can't leave until they have leaders in there that we can work with, or else all this shit is for nothing.
In Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels and international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular, my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again. They can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil.
But the funny thing is, it doesn't really matter whether we believe what the president is saying or not. I mean, when we blew up the nuclear facilities, he was talking that we will never have to worry about these guys again. How many months later are we now right back here saying, you know what, they got missiles that can hit the United States almost? It's just kind of all bullshit, right? It's all filler. I mean, because the truth of the matter is they just want somebody else in charge of Iran. And I guess you can't just come out and say that. You got to come up with justifications for the actions that you're doing. And I guess that's politics. That's global politics. The point is that you could justify almost anything. That's one of the reasons why, Iran can't get a bomb. That's really the reason why, because there was one country that had the bomb and they found all kinds of reasons to use it, right? And people stand on that righteously, that it was okay to kill 100,000 people. So, if we could come up with a justification, we goddamn sure know that those crazy guys in Iran, the Ayatollahs, could come up with an easier one. So on that point, they can't get a bomb. I can dig that. But, let's just say we want people who are more West friendly in charge of a country like Iran and the things that they have to offer the rest of the world. And if it could stop, state sponsors terrorism in other places, if it could no longer be the nexus of terrorism, I guess, we got to go with the flow. But you can't leave this shit wide open. There's got to be new leaders, or else all the stuff we're doing right now is going to be a waste of time and money and lives.
But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades. They've rejected every opportunity to renounce their nuclear ambitions, and we can't take it anymore. Instead, they attempted to rebuild their nuclear program and to continue developing long-range missiles that can now threaten our very good friends and allies in Europe, our troops stationed overseas, and could soon reach the American homeland. Just imagine how emboldened this regime would be if they ever had and actually were armed with nuclear weapons as a means to deliver their message. For these reasons, the United States military is undertaking a massive and ongoing operation to prevent this very wicked, radical dictatorship from threatening America and our core national security interests. We are going to destroy their missiles and raise their missile industry to the ground. It will be totally, again, obliterated. We're going to annihilate their Navy. We're going to ensure that the region's terrorist proxies can no longer destabilize the region or the world and attack our forces.
Another distraction from what? From what? This can't be classified as a distraction. I know what you're trying to say, but, people are going to be dying. So this is not just another distraction. This is the action. Once war starts, what else is there? What else is there? You're going to say Epstein? I know you're going to say Epstein, but come on, man. This is bullshit, man. The Epstein file, they know who the criminals are in Epstein already. You don't need a million files to know that. I would rather people just come out and say that, our leaders, both Democrat and Republican, have been protecting the worst of the worst, and they've been doing it for decades. So that's what's still going on. Did anybody really buy the fact that Epstein he committed suicide? I never bought that. That shit was a lie from the beginning. So we gotta, I'm not saying forget about Epstein, but we gotta realize that our leaders on both sides of the aisle, they're liars. They're liars. They know who the perpetrators are. They ain't doing nothing about it. You're never gonna see a real big perp walk on that. It's just not a war is another thing.
To no longer use their IEDs or roadside bombs, as they are sometimes called, to so gravely wound and kill thousands and thousands of people, including many Americans. And we will ensure that Iran does not obtain a nuclear weapon. It's a very simple message. They will never have a nuclear weapon. This regime will soon learn that no one should challenge the strength and might of the United States Armed Forces. I built and rebuilt our military in my first administration, and there is no military on earth even close to its power, strength, or sophistication. My administration has taken every possible step to minimize the risk to U.S. personnel in the region. Even so, and I do not make this statement lightly, the Iranian regime seeks to kill. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost, and we may have casualties. That often happens in war. But we're doing this not for now. We're doing this for the future, and it is a noble mission. We pray for every service member as they selflessly risk their lives to ensure that Americans and our children will never be threatened by a nuclear-armed Iran. We ask God to protect all of our.
This is the part where, even if you don't, like me, didn't want this war to happen or this excursion to happen, Once Americans start dying, you can't really be in opposition to what's going on. You got to want us to win. There's nothing else to be said. We have to win. Now, winning to me means that they got to put some asshole, excuse me, in the seat of power in Iran, or else this has been a failure. They can't leave that place until there's some candidates that they think will be more West friendly, and I got to say it, Israel friendly, or else this is going to be for naught. We can't leave, right? Because we created a power vacuum, and it'll just be some other hardliner get in there, and we'll be right back at this shit again. So they got to have. So I think as part of the plan, they have to have some handpicked people that they want to choose from and have some kind of elections. I mean, if that's not part of the plan, this is just stupid. You know?
Heroes in harm's way, and we trust that with his help, the men and women of the armed forces will prevail. We have the greatest in the world, and they will prevail. To the members of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard, the armed forces, and all of the police, I say tonight that you must lay down your weapons and have complete immunity, or in the alternative, face certain death. So lay down your arms. You will be treated fairly with total immunity, or you will face certain death. Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked.
Hey, so if you have a question about Israel's situation in this whole thing, you don't need to come to American news. Go look at Israeli news. The IDF, I think, put out a statement that they were planning this with Trump and America months ago. Remember, there was a recent meeting with Netanyahu and Trump just maybe 2 weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago. What do you think they were talking about? What do you think they were talking about? And if you listen to this particular speech, Trump takes great pains of not mentioning Israel as a partner in this thing. The first time I knew that the bombs were flying was from an Israeli source, right? That they started the bombing thing first. Now, I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that's what I read. So the American people American people in general have Israeli fatigue. We do. And that's why he took great pains by not mentioning them in this speech. And if you go back through it, he mentioned the October 7th, okay. But in terms of the partnership that's going on, he doesn't talk about that in this particular speech. And he was smart not to. He was smart not to, because American people don't want to hear that shit. We're going to send our kids to die. We want to do it for reasons that benefit us and America only. But in this case, it's really not true. We do have a rider, but the only issue is who's leading. Are we leading, or is Israel leading? And that burns some people's chops, because that's just not necessarily clear. Because behind every war that we've been in, Netanyahu was at the table. When I say every war, against like Iraq and all that kind of stuff, he was at the table.
Asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want.
Let me also say, even with what I just said, even if Israel's involved, which they are, if America's at war, at some point, we have to choose the side of our own country. We just do. We can't have people talking about our soldiers and shit like that. I remember Vietnam. People used to spit on Vietnam vets when they got back. Right? We should never have, and we should never hold our soldiers in contempt for what their leaders do. We just should be happy that our soldiers follow orders. So I just hope the plan says we're going to put somebody in, and we're not leaving until we do. And that's the bottom line.
So let's see how you respond. America is backing you with overwhelming strength and devastating force. Now is the time to seize control of your destiny and to unleash the prosperous and glorious.
See, this is what he doesn't say, is that we're going to give you arms, we're going to give you money, we're going to give you strategy, we're going to give you tactics. We're going to tell you how to take over the regime if there's any of the Ayatollahs and those guys left. Now, that's not going to be said at this particular briefing, but they got to have some guys on the ground who are Iranian in mind for leadership, and that's who they're going to give weapons to. You think the average Iranian guy is walking around with, sophisticated weapons? I doubt it.
Future that is close within your reach. This is the moment for action. Do not let it pass. May God bless the brave men and women of America's armed forces. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless you all. Thank you.
All right, this is the White House. So here we are, another regime change war. And with that, you know what? I just thought I'd throw that up there. And I don't know what else to say. God bless our soldiers, man. And hopefully the leaders don't F them over this time. We can't afford just to do this shit half-assed. We got people going to be dying. There you go. So listen, everybody enjoy their Saturday, man. Pray for the soldiers, pray for the country. And hopefully this time they won't just do it all half-assed. Let's get it done. Art Payne, your favorite baby boomer, over and out.